Victor Rodriguez, and tonight we are going to be talking about Dark Side of the Ring. David Schultz, the slap heard round the world. So my co-hosts are with me tonight, and tonight I'd like to introduce to you number one. Oh wait, he left. To none other than Katrina Storm.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, Katrina?
I'm okay.
Um, Now, I just want to let you guys know that the Willatine Dream will be joining us this evening. He just is having a little technical difficulty, so he will be with us shortly. So now let's get it started. Katrina, what did you think about this thing?
It was interesting. It was definitely a lot more low key than the last or the last couple of episodes Dark Side of the Ring has had. It's been pretty, those are kind of crazy episodes. This one was a lot more laid back, but it was crazy. I feel like David have a little bit of like letting go. It's okay to let go
Word
of
up.
kayfabe sometimes. It is okay. Like the world will not end if you don't let go of kayfabe. I feel like he was still stuck on that, like how the wrestlers' attitudes, personas. I feel like he's still very much stuck on that, even in 2020.
I agree. I agree. He definitely, one thing that I was very happy about, at least with this one, is that the main character of the story actually spoke. Because with a lot of these, like it's pretty much like kind of like looking back into somebody's life, but they don't really
Yeah,
necessarily speaking for themselves. In this one and in the Bret Hart one, you get to see where people are actually speaking for themselves. So that part of it, I really enjoyed. And to talk about the beginning of it, there's part of it that I really appreciated because at that time, kayfabe definitely was a real thing, and the wrestlers really did stay in character. Now, David Schultz, like you said before, yeah, he definitely took it far. He definitely took it far. But you know what? Like if you see some of those promos, especially what they were talking about in the beginning, the whole thing about because he was really oh hey Elvis, he was a really good heel.
hey
He
guys.
was Hey Ricky, he was a really good heel. So like uh the promos that he was cutting were just it was just he was just generating so much heat, and the whole thing with the parents and the kids and that whole promo that they had set up, and how like what it reminded me of? It reminded me a lot of Brian Pillman. So, like when Brian Pillman had the gun situation.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that I didn't realize when it comes to that. I didn't realize that was all Vince McMahon. I had no idea that was all Vince. No clue. That did you?
No, I mean I didn't know, but I wasn't surprised because
Mm.
this is Vince, and sometimes Vince will see how far he can take things, how far he can push, wherever the subject is. He does that. So I wasn't surprised to hear it, but I didn't know. But I wasn't surprised. I was like, okay, all right, this sounds like Vince would do this because that's Vince McMahon. He's definitely good for trying to push, see how far he can,
Yes.
push.
Yes. Yes.
Hey,
Yes. Yes.
Denise.
Yes. Um. Now, yeah. One thing that I definitely noticed about that was that like even prior to WrestleMania, like Vince really had a set of balls. Oh man, because what was crazy about that whole situation is that RIP. Oh hey Denise, how you doing? What was crazy about that whole situation was how David Schultz ended up getting the cops looking for him, going into Vince. The cops ended up going into Vince's office, looking for him because of that promo that they had cut, and he was being charged with spousal abuse and, and like neglecting of children and all of this stuff. And Vince had to tell the police that it was a work, that it was just a show, that it wasn't, that those weren't his real guns, that all of that was Vince, and it was all Vince's idea.
Yeah.
So now, like, it's just speaking on that. How much of it? How much of these things do you think is
Hey, Steve.
Vince's fault? Hmm?
Oh, I was saying hi to Steve.
Oh, like how much of these things do you think is Vince's fault? Like if something goes, if Vince tells somebody to do a storyline and then something goes a little bit overboard, how much of it is it Vince's fault?
I don't. I mean, it's. I won't. I'm. I don't. I wouldn't say it's all his fault. I feel like that's a bit. That's like putting. He's the easiest person to blame. He's Vince. You can blame him for everything. If that, anything bad, like okay, well, it's Vince's fault. I mean, people still do that now. Like something happens with WWE with a storyline, and automatically it's Vince McMahon's fault, as if somebody else might not have had some kind of say in something. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it was partially his fault, but again, David is really like he was so into it that I feel like this is the reason why people thought you was really beating up your kid. They
Yeah.
even thought that was your kid because it seemed very real. Like you really was like having cameras,
Mhm.
like if this was like reality TV and they had cameras watching you beat up your wife and your kid or whatever the case may be. And even when he was
Mhm.
talking about it, he was like talking about it, like he was still saying it with such like he was still there. Like I was telling him how to do this, and I'm just like, all right, like that's what I was just like, let it go, it's okay. Like we know now, it's okay to let it go a little bit. We're not gonna feel a way that you're letting us know it's not real. Like we know this, so it was just like, um, I don't know. I feel like it was just more so Vince is partially responsible, but like he did a damn good job at convincing everybody it was real. But he also kind of
Mhm.
lived that life. Like he kept
Mhm.
telling people that it's no, it's this is the wrestling, this is what it is, and this is the way I'm gonna live it. So if you have that mindset 24/7, of course it's gonna look like it's legit. Like this, like okay, this might be like not like oh you really hurt your wife and son, even though it was like a work. It was just like this is how this guy was. He literally lived and breathed kayfabe. Let's look at the
Yeah.
one thing they kept saying. Like
Yeah.
they was like,
Yeah.
oh, he
So
was
now,
all into kayfabe. That's the one thing that was consistent through the whole episode was how much he was into kayfabe. So
the other thing with that is that in the beginning they also mentioned how his trainer was one of the last people that had learned this craft from the circus. So he's
yeah,
one of the last people that had learned the original, that were like one of the original pro wrestlers. So like they really held kayfabe in high regard. So I think that that's something that resonated with him. And one thing that Jim Cornette said that really stuck out to me about this guy, at least the trainer,
yeah,
was that to break people in, he would take a bunch of shit, put it under his armpit, and then get somebody in a headlock and hold them and squeeze them in there and just squeeze and just mash all of that feces into somebody until they couldn't take anymore. And that's how they broke people into the business. Like, in my opinion, that's worse than hazing. Like that shit is really bad. Like,
that's disgusting. I was actually very
yeah,
disgusted when they was telling that story, and I was just
yes,
like, so
yeah,
you use it's one thing we gotta like use animal poop, and that's still nasty, but you use your own.
yes,
And then use like I'm gonna touch my own stuff and then I'm gonna put it on me where it shouldn't be. Then I'm gonna go walk
exactly.
out with that there and then go do this to other people. Like
It's
if
like,
I was one of those people, we probably would have been fighting, like for real. Like there's not gonna
well,
be like I don't care about wrestling right now. We're gonna be fighting if you put your feces on me. Like that's just a whole like
mm-hmm.
I was just so disgusted. I was just like, oh, that couldn't be me. That couldn't be me.
Yeah. But
Because we
like
fighting for real.
you go through a situation like that, and then this is how they beat the drum into you to keep the kayfabe. Um, so like I honestly like yeah, the guy's definitely at fault, but shit, he really went through some stuff to get there because oh man, if I was excited to be a wrestler and somebody did that to me, I would walk out the door. I'm
Yeah, like
telling
I
you.
said, we'd be fighting. Like I was like,
Mhm.
after wrestling right now, we fight.
For
We
real,
fight.
like this is
You want to fight? Like,
oh man, that was insane. But moving forward towards that, like when he the another thing that I didn't know is that this guy worked with Hogan a lot, and he pretty much he was the guy who made Hogan a little bit bigger prior to him even meeting Vince McMahon. Like he
yeah,
made Hogan bigger in the NWA scene, in the indie scene, that was in the territorial scene. And honestly, those two guys, they work together. So now I wonder what would have happened if David Schultz would have stayed around, if the slap would have never happened, and any of that. But to continue with Hogan and him, it looks like they had quite a bit of a relationship.
Yeah.
And they were really really close friends. But unfortunately, it looks like um, Terry went into business for himself like he usually does. And you want to enlighten us on that?
You mean with regards to?
Their friendship.
You mean Hogan? Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
Hogan and this guy and Schultz.
I mean,
Because I had no idea that
no,
they
I
even
didn't.
knew each other.
I'm not gonna. I don't. I didn't know as much as about David. I probably learned a lot more watching the episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess it was. I mean, I guess in a way, what helped him get to WWE was the fact that he had that relationship with Hogan. Because Hogan was like, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'll work with him," because every time we worked together before, it was an automatic like money grab. Like people would, oh,
Yes.
they're having a match with so that was smart on. I mean, on Vince to make sure that okay, we can kind of capitalize on that. Like, oh, if this is
Mm-hmm.
something that Vince is good for that. Like, if this is something that can get money, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll
Mm-hmm.
sign you. The only thing I didn't like when I think he was saying Vince was like, oh, I'll take care of you and you would never have to worry about money again. It's always funny when I hear people tell me stories like that. Vince, come like, we all know when Vince really want to get rid of somebody, he'll just be done. And like,
Forever.
that's what that money he was talking about is gone. So it's like, um, it was smart of Vince. And I think it was, I guess, a good thing that they both worked so well together. I mean, in David's defense, I don't know if Hogan didn't say, well, let's work together, would anybody have known who
Mm.
David was on a bigger, audience than whoever knew him when he was in NWA? It's like some
I
like
feel you.
people say what you say about WWE, but a lot of times some of the things that they do kind of help people who might not really watch wrestling know who somebody is. So I
Yeah.
thought that was smart. It was smart. But then Hogan's Hogan, and you saw Hogan's career like went skyrocket. So
Exactly. Now you see Ricky, and Ricky's another person. He just saying that he didn't. He saw the slap on YouTube. I certainly saw the slap on YouTube several times, but I didn't even know who David Schultz was, and that's one of the reasons why I'm definitely interested in this documentary. But let me introduce to y'all our extra co-host, the one and only Willatine Dream.
What's up, yo, 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 yo,
hey,
yo?
Willie.
Steaming Willie Bayman is in the house. What's going on, people?
What's up, Dream?
Sorry for the tardiness, y'all. I
It's
apologize
cool,
once
man. It's
again.
cool. It's cool. Thank you for being here, fam. Thank you for being here. So wait, were you listening at all to what we was talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful, 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 beautiful. So now, basically, where we were at right now was with his relationship with Hogan, and I had no idea. Did you?
Yeah, I actually did. I actually knew
Mm.
about Dave Schultz. Like, he's one of the best kept secret or unknowns of professional wrestling. And it was the notice story. It just go to show you how shady and janky Vince was and is. And even Hogan, the stuff you hear that honky tonk man say, even when him and Brutus Barber Beefcake, even what Savage would say about Hogan before Savage died, like it goes into Hogan's character, like as a fucked up, wrestler, and it shows that when you ain't no more good to the business, or if you're not best for business, they gonna bury you.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep. 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 Definitely. Definitely.
for Vince,
I feel you on that.
for
I
Vince
feel
to
you
tell
on
him
that.
to stay in character, and that the guy shitting on the business at the time when kayfabe wrestling was starting. What's up, Denise? What's up, Queen? How you? But the fact that Vince discarded him, but he the one that told him to go do it, and then what was it? A couple months later, when he had to go in front of the gaming commission, now it's sports entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And then when
Mm-hmm.
did
Yeah.
y'all talk about what Hogan did after the slap?
Oh, no. We was getting to that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead. Because we was getting to that because like see that the thing is that what I was expressing was just the fact that I didn't even know those two were cool like that, because and one thing that I definitely like about this documentary is that it was very informative and I learned a lot because You know, I didn't know those two were cool. I didn't know that it was David Schultz that pretty much was the one who helped Hogan get to pretty much his final stages. But unfortunately, you know, since he was the blonde bombshell and he, you know, he was just gonna be the big star, he pretty much just left his boy. You know what I mean? And mind you, Schultz said that he hasn't spoken to Hogan since then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Hogan even like, you know, he apologized to Warrior and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Apologized
But
to Macho Man and all of that. So like,
but see,
I wonder when David Schultz is still around, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, hey, he's still around. You better go say something.
well, even that apology he gave the Warrior, that was Triple H doing. Like,
I
like,
mean, no, because the whole thing about how he was going around in the car and then found them, and then you know what I mean.
mm-hmm.
Um,
But like,
but anyway, not to get off into another tangent. Um, wait, where was I? Oh yeah. Um, so yeah, we basically we're speaking on that, and like, what were your thoughts on that, Katrina?
With
As far as Hogan betraying his quote unquote best friend at the time for money.
I'm not. Let's. I always just call a spade a spade. So you know, people are very funny when it comes to money.
Facts.
Um, you can think somebody is your friend, and while I understand to an extent, like if this is what you do and you want to like have money to be good for the rest of your life, I understand that extent. And I
Mm-hmm.
always feel like if you can get your money, get your money.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that money and friendship not is not always like go hand in hand. A lot of times, money will end a friendship quick. Like it's like money and women is a quick way to end a friendship. So
Facts.
you know,
Real
like
quick.
I just like I wasn't surprised. Like
Yeah.
and you've heard stories about Hogan with like how he is with other how he was rather with his on the way to the top. So I wasn't surprised. It sucked, but then it's like one of those like, well, yeah, it makes sense because that's what people do. Unfortunately, like Hogan became the biggest thing of that time at around that
Mm-hmm.
period. He was like the biggest thing. My personal feelings by his side, he was the biggest thing at that time. So it's like, was he really going to turn that down when it was known that Vince was grooming him to be that? Probably not. I don't think
Yeah,
most people
no,
would turn that
definitely
down
not.
for
I wonder
friendship.
if anybody would have done it. Now, at the same time, to credit Hogan, he did pretty much bring Schultz in, but then that's where I bring it back to: is this Vince's fault? Because, like David said, listen, Vince told me to stay in character.
and the
So
guy shitting on the business.
leading on to that, right? Because Katrina and I were actually speaking about this prior to the show. The 2020 reporter, right? I forget his name. What's his name?
John's
I forgot his name, but did y'all go into the
is
prequel how
John
the other
Stossel.
wrestler did the expose with him first before David Schultz smacked him?
No,
Say
we didn't get
what?
to that yet.
No, no, oh,
I
no,
said,
no, no. Yeah. We didn't get into that yet. We didn't get into that yet. But yeah, we actually because we did that in the promo. Um, but yeah, no, just to speak on him real quick, the reporter, and and here's the thing about that reporter, like his face was all over this documentary. So I'm certain that he got a pretty good check, and like he was definitely ready to tell this story. And when we get to the end of the report, like you'll see what I mean. Because what he says at the end is just the icing on the fucking cake. But yeah, I feel like this guy at the time was probably in his early 30s, around our age, looking to build his career and just looking to get whatever he could. Um, and people had said to him not to approach Schultz, not to say anything to Schultz. They said that to him, and then he still did it. Right. So, like, I wonder, I wonder out of the three, who is the one to blame here for the slap in itself. And we'll elaborate a little bit more into that. But like, I really wonder with all of the evidence, all the information, who can you really point the finger at?
if I could if I would have to say who was to blame for the slap, I would say Vince. And I'm gonna say Vince and the reporter.
And the reporter.
Yeah, because Vince for telling Schultz to stay in character, and you let the guy back there right after the first expose where the blade and everything got exposed. So you had some intentions for some type of conflict to happen when you let him backstage to interview the wrestlers. So at like this, the height of kayfabe, early '80s, when wrestling was WWF was about to start to explode. So I say Vince, and then the reporter for not the reporter fault because one, he already was getting backlash after he did the first expose with the wrestler who got blackballed. So you already knew you was on dangerous territory being back there. So he just
I feel you on that.
and
I feel you on that.
he didn't do his research on David Schultz before he interviewed him.
Yep. So now to speak on the wrestler that got blackballed, because that whole part, I thought that shit was hilarious, to be honest with you. Because like, and Katrina and I were speaking on that earlier because like we were just like, dude, what are you bitching about? You know what I mean? Hold on, Katrina, you wanna enlighten us on this? Oh, look,
Come on,
look,
let's go.
show me and say hi to you.
Hi, Sherman. For me, I felt the guy was being petty. I felt he was being extremely petty.
The capital P.
I'm not saying, you don't want to, you work hard for something, not to have your money. I understand the fact that he was felt that they were trying to take his money, and I understood that. My issue was if you're mad about you wanted insurance and you wanted better things for the wrestlers, which you can want, why have like, oh, I'm going to, by the way, let me go to the guy who's trying to expose us, which now messes up my check. Anyway, let me go expose us and explain, oh, this is how they blade. This is what they do with we put the hands here, or we blade this way, or we do the moves and we're holding the elbows. When he was explaining that much detail, he was being petty. Especially when he was like, oh, I'm gonna call ABC. So if all the people you call, like, oh, let me not go talk to somebody else about trying to get some other stuff. The first thing you think is to call a reporter to get insurance, like to get benefits supposedly for you and your fellow wrestler. It felt like if you was gonna expose what makes you guys get your money in the first place, how were you really doing it for your wrestler? Like he kept saying, "Oh, it was for us." Like, bro, no, you was being petty because you couldn't wrestle anymore, and they put you out because you was the one complaining. So they blackballed you, which happened to people all the time. You was being petty. This wasn't about you and your fellow wrestlers, because if you wasn't, that was probably the wrong place to go to. Like if you was really trying to protect their livelihoods. Knowing that was my issue. I felt like he was being very petty.
I mean,
I agree with you.
I don't want to play devil's advocate, but he also was saying how the promoters was taking 20% of the money of the booking. So like for them to book you, they was taking 20%. Plus we not getting health insurance. So as far as the news, I'm gonna just be a little transparent. I'm a U.S. veteran of the U.S. Navy. So one time I used to be known as the Antoine Fisher on my boat. So one time I go to captain's mast. Now before I go to captain's mast, I'm paying attention to who goes up and get in trouble before me. Now it's the white guy. Now one of the biggest things in the Navy is dating an underage girl or out in town underage drinking. Now we had a white guy who caught with an underage girl and drinking, and he was under 21. So when they go to his punishment of it, man, they just restricted him to the boat. They didn't bust him down and pay or nothing, and he was only restricted to the weekends. Me, on the other hand, all I did was write my name in the big ass field with the snowplow that said Willie's Navy. They was talking about busting me down in rank and taking half my pay for a month, and I was restricted for 45 days. You know what I looked at my admiral and said? I said, oh, if y'all think y'all gonna take my money and take half my pay, when I just watched this guy go before me who had the complexion for the protection and his punishment wasn't nowhere near as harsh as mine, I said, y'all restrict me to the boat if y'all want to and take my money. I'm calling Channel 7, Channel 5, everything to let them know how racist that the U.S. Navy is. Guess what happened? Mr. Jones, Petty Officer Jones, We sorry about that. We just gonna restrict you for one weekend. You won't be bust down and rank or pay. So I kind of get it.
No,
So I
I
kind of get it.
understand that part. Like I will tell people in a hot second, like I'm a firm believer of going over people. So like when I had a situation with my son being bullied, and I was like, if y'all don't handle it, I'm gonna go over y'all. Like with not, I'm not gonna do this back and forth with y'all. I will kindly go over whoever's in charge of you, and if that don't work, I'm go over to the next person. I'm a firm believer if you're gonna do what you have to do. With that regard, I thought I did understand the whole you not having getting your money. Like if I'm working hard and you trying to take out this much money when you're not doing as much work as I'm in. I'm not saying promoters don't work, but let's be real. You promote, but you're not the one in the ring. So I understand that, but I felt like that was probably like to go like even though he kept saying he wanted to talk about what was happening, he should have just if anything, he should have made sure not to mention the other parts of the wrestling business. You could still like, I'm not going to talk about what you want me to talk about as far as being fake. I will just tell you, I'm letting you know that they don't treat us well enough as far as making sure we're okay with money or health benefits or whatever it is you want to say. You can do that without explaining what the kayfabe was. That was my issue with it. I was like, that I felt was very petty because you didn't have to mention that when you showed the blade, once he showed what the blade was trying to I was like, bro, that's like, you really thought you could get work after this? Like, you showed one of the, when people used to get like, oh my God, a person's bleeding. And we'll be like, oh my God, this person's hurt. And we like, as a fan, you're like, gee, like you feel it for it. And you're like, oh, concerned. You just ruined that for people who really like, not personally. I was getting, as I said before the show started, like I usually knew how to tell when something wasn't legit. Like where I'm like, my life didn't revolve like, oh my God, this is real. And I'm going to art that. I never did that. But like for those who really was immense in the entertainment, it's like if you're watching a TV show and you mad at the characters, like, and we know it's not real, like we get mad at the storyline. We like, what the F is this? And we tight and we rant. And it's kind of that, analogy. So you ruined that for everybody by saying, oh, this is how they make sure we do the move. So we kind of do the move and we blade here. And then we're like, if there's like some sweat dripping, then it just makes it worse. He just showed all of those little details that was like, okay, this isn't just about you being mad the fact that your promoter was taking your money. I felt like you could have just said what you want to say without mentioning the kayfabe part.
Is he validated that months later Vince goes to the sports and gaming board and says this sports entertainment?
Facts. Facts. I mean, one thing that I didn't like about that whole thing, that whole report, was when they were doing like little slams and little things, he was explaining how he has to jump and that you don't use that much strength in order to do things like that. Like that was just exposing. So like you do that, you expose a ton of it. You know what I mean? Even a power slam, you're leaning on somebody's hand and you're picking them up. And like, because like knowing how to work is knowing how to make things look like they're extremely hard when they're not. You know what I mean? So that you can continue doing the match, so that you can have a match for half an hour. That and them showing that off, like that upset me because like, and I'll honestly just piggyback on what she said. Like it was incredibly, incredibly petty. And there's probably some parts in there that he didn't necessarily add. Like he probably wasn't getting work because his character was whack. You know what I mean? You could tell that the guy had no mic skills. You could see that David Schultz definitely had some mic skills. So like there must be something else in there. But the whole thing about getting insurance for the boys and getting all of this and all of that, like there really isn't that many places where you're an independent contractor and they provide all of these things for you. Plus the 30%. Yeah, plus the 30%. In a lot of things, it's standard. And I'll give you an example. Postmates 30%. No, Postmates 30%. TaskRabbit 30%. Uber 30%. Lyft 25%. You know what I mean? Like you work for the platform, and they take their cut. And I'm sure that back then that's exactly how it was. Because the thing is that the promoter promotes, but the promoter gets the venue. The promoter buys the ring. The promoter buys the space. The promoter buys all of these things. So like, and a lot of people they're only looking at the money that they got in their hands and the money that they receive. So like, at the end of the day, though, the promoter, in my opinion, should have been dishing out a little bit more money because you got to keep your talent happy. Because without the talent, you got nothing. It doesn't matter if you have the ring or the venue or the space. You have to have something to put on the stage, and if you don't have that, you don't got nothing.
especially when
So
merch.
like they, but when it comes to this guy, I just think that he couldn't get himself over, so he's being petty.
Yeah, because
You
I
know what
didn't
I
even
mean?
know who he was. I didn't even
Facts.
know.
I didn't. That's the thing. That's what I
Yeah,
like about this documentary because like I know nothing, and yo, I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying? Like clearly, you know what I mean? And like yo, I didn't know nothing about this guy or anything that happened. That's why I really like this documentary. So ooh, we gotta move fast. Okay. Um, so wait, where were we now? Oh, this part I really liked. So after after he does the slap and basically ends up. Oh no, wait, yeah, wait. Let me just allude to this, right? How did you guys feel about this? So he does the slap, does his match, comes back like normal. A couple of weeks later, Vince is getting sued by ABC, and tells David to sign a document stating that David did it all on his own accord, and that Vince never told him to do anything, and blah 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 blah. And then David was like, "Listen, I'll sign something saying that you told me to do it because that's exactly what you told me to do. But I'm not gonna sit here and just say that I did it on myself." So then Vince was just like, all right, you know what? I'll send you over to Japan. We'll cool this off. We'll cool it over and all of that, and then we'll see what happens. But before I continue on that, like, how'd you guys feel about that situation? About how
go
Vince
ahead,
all of
Japan.
a
You can go
sudden in the
first.
beginning he's like, don't worry about it, and then all of a sudden he's like, listen, I need you to sign this shit so I can cover my ass.
Vince is Vince. He is a business guy. He's getting
Mm-hmm.
sued for something when his employee is dead. That's like
Mm-hmm.
there will be like any company if you retell something really bad happened and somebody's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sue. And the correct thing would be to sue everybody because that's the easiest way to make sure you get something out of a lawsuit. You sue everybody involved. So you sue the big guy, even though Vince technically wasn't the one who actually did it. This is
Mm-hmm.
why I said it was a mix of like Vince is partially responsible, but I felt like David was also very much way too into kayfabe. Because you could have said all the trash talking you wanted to say about how, even when he was talking to him at the end, he was like, "Oh, they were a bunch of like wimps and like cowards," and like he was still in the mindset like, "Oh, you guys don't understand it's kayfabe." So it's like
Yeah.
I felt like he probably would have slapped him regardless of what Vince said because the man was like, "Oh, this is fake," and he in his head
Mm-hmm.
he really felt like this is life, like wrestling's life. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
this is what it is. And I felt like he probably would like Vince probably made it seem okay to slap him, but I don't think it was all 100% of Vince because David seemed way too like every time they went to him, every time they stressed something about him, he was so into character, so into like we have to follow
That's true.
kayfabe, even not in the ring. We can't be outside the ring having dinner. It's kayfabe, kayfabe, kayfabe. So
Yes.
I felt like he was really insulted that the man even said that to him, like, "Oh, wrestling's fake." He
Mm-hmm.
probably was really upset by that. Like he probably
No,
felt the
you can see
way.
it in his face.
And
You can
that's
see it
probably
in
why
his
he
face.
slapped him. And it was like Vince might have told you to be in character, but you felt away. That's why. Like, let's not act like you was just like really like the gun was to your head and you was like, well, I got to do because Vince told me. Like, bro, you really believe in kayfabe. Even now, you haven't wrestled in
Mm-hmm.
God knows how long, and you still in kayfabe. Like it's kayfabe, kayfabe. Like I don't know how he feel about wrestling right now when you got the Instagram telling everything. How like that has to drive him crazy because it's like they don't follow kayfabe there. It's like we find out half the crap online now that you
Yep.
can't get a good story because it's already online. And so I
That's
know it
true.
has to drive him crazy now with wrestling, how wrestling is right now. I feel
Yeah.
like Vince, yes, that man got backstage because Vince gave the okay. The guy said it. He was like, I got back there because I'm guessing Vince okayed it. Because this is Vince McMahon we talking. He probably wanted to scare him a bit. Like, oh, this guy is mad hardcore. He doesn't cut it. Like, let's have this guy talk to him instead. That's why he
Mm-hmm.
started off with the Iron Sheik. Like it was like he started off with certain people for this guy to talk to. So yeah, Vince had some, into that, but I felt like David that he just didn't like that man said that. He was probably really insulted that the guy was like wrestling's fake because he really believed like in his head it's like no, this is what it is. Like to you, maybe it's fake,
Mm.
but to me, this is life, like wrestling's life. But Vince did what typical businessmen would do. He made shit cover his ass. Like, oh, you ain't gonna sign this for me? Okay, I'll see you in Japan. And then he all of a sudden he not working all the time. Like he was mad. He felt away. He felt away. Like you didn't sign the
Word up.
paper. Like I told you to sign the paper, so I'll just send you to Japan for a while. That's Vince.
Yep. Yep.
I,
Yep. Yep.
I
So wait, now, do you guys think that Vince knew what the Japanese were gonna do with David?
yeah, And I think that the fact that what's up, David? The fact that he didn't,
Hey, David.
he talking about some, what are you doing, dude? Man,
That's part
hey,
of
David, you know what it is, man. You know I'm the
David.
420
That's
podcast.
part of his character, David.
Yeah, you
That's
know
part of
that.
his character. Okay,
But
that's a character, David. That's a character prop. Okay,
exactly, exactly. Like my wig is, my blunt is my prop.
exactly. That's the Willatine dream. Just let him rock. All right.
Nah, but the fact that I want to give David Schultz credit for not signing that paper.
Thank you, Jay.
Like that was the most smartest thing because I did a little research and he ended up suing Vince, getting a settlement because him not being able to perform, make the maximum earnings. So that was cool. I thought that was smart, and it just even fucked up on Vince. Like Vince, you know what you told him when that reporter was back there. And like I say, we gotta also understand we was in one of the heights of kayfabe. Like, so the fact that to protect the business was to think it was real. So like I said, after the dude did the expose with the wrestler, the other wrestler, so then you send him to a real motherfucker who loves kayfabe, like, or who lives by the book. And
Yep.
so Vince told him, like, at that time, Schultz was, he was serious. Like, he was serious, even to the back where people had to say, he really fucking hitting us back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so what y'all doing? Like, Vince knew what he was doing when he sent them to who he sent them to. And so for you to ask him to sign a piece of paper and all that, that's just more shady shit than that. You said after he signed it, you was gonna give him a run or something, put him back in standards. I believe David was smart enough to say, "Nah, give me that in writing. I ain't just going off your word. And if you're not, then I'm."
See now the cool thing about this is, and this is one thing that I actually learned from 50 Cent. Turn shit into sugar. And in my opinion, for lack of a better phrase, this is exactly what David Schultz did. Because this bounty hunting situation he got himself into after wrestling, because he basically went to Japan. The Japanese used and abused him for his heat. They had him hit another reporter. They used and abused him for his heat, and then when he came back, they had nothing for him. So he was pretty much done with the wrestling business, and um with no work and no way to generate an income. Somebody told him about becoming a bounty hunter, and that you get 25% of the bond. No, that you get 10% of the bond if you bring the people in. So he tells this story about how he goes to a bar, finds a guy, puts a gun in his face, and tells him, "All right, you're coming with me." And and he says that was the easiest racket that he ever made. But then what I really enjoyed about that is that he took his character work into this. He took his fake life character and made it into a real life thing with a real business. And yeah, I thought that part was awesome. Like, what do you guys think about that?
He was
Yeah,
the
it was cool.
original.
I was glad he was able to like do something. It sucks, but sometimes you hear the stories about like people you actually really didn't know too much about, and then it's like, oh, they did you dirty, and then they do nothing else. It's like they're so stuck in the wrestling life that they do nothing else, and then they end up on somebody's RIP list. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that happens to a lot of wrestlers. So it's like they can't
Yep.
like the wrestling. Once wrestling's over, that's it for them. So I was glad
Yep.
he was able to do something else outside of wrestling. I still think he still is too much into kayfabe though, because he still was like mad. Like if it happened yesterday,
Facts.
like
But
he
that's
was
how
still
you
like,
know he
oh,
was hurt.
if I see him, I'm just like, all right, like bro, it's 2020. Let it go. It's fine.
But
It's
that's
fine.
how
Let
you
it go.
know it affect. That's how you know it affected him though. I ain't gonna lie. Him becoming that bounty hunter shit. He made me think he was Dog the Bounty Hunter. That's where they got that show from because of him.
That's
When
probably
he
where
talked
they
about.
got it from, because like, no, you could tell that dude was gangster with his shit. Like, you could definitely tell that he did not care. And mind you, like, he even said himself, like, you know, to get people, like, I was using a lot of the things that I
Wrestling
learned in
Hoes.
wrestling. A lot of wrestling holds, a lot of I use in order to stop people and to stop them from moving and to do all of these things. I was able to use wrestling holds, so the job became very easy, to the point where I had fame. like the fame that he got, the infamy that he got from wrestling just carried on to him being a bounty hunter. And I respect it as a businessman because it's just like, all right, you take a bad circumstance and then you just figure out a way to use
Yeah.
that in order to keep moving. You know what I mean? So like I really, really appreciated that for a while because like I was just like, wow, this guy really just turned it around. And mind you, ended up becoming one of the best bounty hunters in that state. Like insane. It went to the point where people were scared of him. Like people running from him and type of shit. Like you know what I mean? Like
That,
it was just it's insane. But I really really enjoyed that part.
come on, Joe. Go in the room with mommy. Come on, Joe. Sorry,
There you go.
my
There
big
you go.
dog
There
acting
you
up.
go.
But yeah, like I was saying, like I'm glad to see him turn it around. He ain't let that shit hold him back too much, and
Exactly.
he said, "Fuck you, Vince. I'm gonna still make money elsewhere," and became very very lucrative. Not just lucrative, but a very respectable bounty hunter. So, like I said,
Yeah.
watching that made me feel like that's where Dog the Bounty Hunter came from, cause yeah, it made me feel like that's where Dog the Bounty Hunter came from.
Mm-hmm. And he turned his character work into that. Cut TV promos, continue cutting promos on commercials and shit like that with his finger up and pointing at people like I'm gonna that kind of shit. Like I'm certain that it was effective. Like the guy it's kind of like if Jake the Snake Roberts became a bounty hunter and he was after you. Like I'd be scared shitless. You know what I mean? I'd be like, you know what? Fuck that, man. I'm gonna just show up at the precinct for this motherfucker. You know, because I'm not doing that. I ain't doing that. I ain't messing with you, man. It was great. It was great. I really enjoyed this. All right, wait, hold up. We're at 7:57. You good, Katrina?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So now, a few more things from this, and one thing that I definitely do like about Dark Side of the Ring is I have a lot more respect for Jim Cornette. I didn't know how much of a historian Jim Cornette was. To tell you the truth, like I would like to visit Jim Cornette's room one day just to see like his fucking collection of shit. Like the guy has newspaper clippings from 1933 of wrestling. Like he really is a wrestling historian. And I really really respect it because the guy speaks about everything like he was right there. I mean, obviously the Montreal Screwjob, he was there, but when it comes to this, like he's just very, very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate him. Like I wasn't really a Cornette fan because he can say some slick shit sometimes, especially about New York. So I'm not the biggest fan of Jim Cornette, but I definitely respect the guy, and I really appreciate what he's doing with Dark Side of the Ring.
I want to go to his room and I want to go to the Hogan Beach House.
Oh, word. Word, word,
So,
word, word. I see you there. I see you on that.
that was, man, what? Definitely, that's something I want to experience when I go to Florida or something. Go to the Hogan Beach shop and just see how much wrestling shit. Like that's what Hogan. That's one of the things Hogan is like the MJ of the wrestling world. Because anything that got to do with his merch, whether it's from WWE, WCW, when they were still two separate companies, he still got paid.
Oh, facts. Facts. I mean, right now, I give that to Stone Cold. You know why? You know why I say that?
What?
Me and Chris were having this argument the other day.
Well, no, see, I told him I wanted to talk about that too, because I feel like Austin is as far as sales and all that, I think he's bigger than Hogan.
Yeah, no, because the thing is that when it comes to the merch itself, all of Hogan's stuff was discontinued at one point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
An Austin 316 shirt is the one shirt that has been consistent since 1997. That is the one shirt that never stopped production, and they make a lot of stuff. They're still having trouble selling the man's man shirts, and that came out last year. They have WrestleMania 35 T-shirts still. So they literally print stuff until they get rid of it all, and then that's it. But the Austin 316 shirt, never in 23 years, never have they stopped
You know,
with production of
you
that
know what
shirt
ever
because the
shirt?
demand has always been there. Huh?
You know what ever shirt been like that? The NWO shirt.
That's another one. That's another one. That's never they never really stopped production until yes they did. They did stop production, but that's literally at the time after Vince bought WCW. So we're literally talking about a year.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what I mean? And then after that, the WWE has been making NWO shirts ever since then. And DX shirt, and no, actually, a DX shirt is another one. DX shirt is another one. That's another one that has not stopped production. The original D Generation X. The mark is always ready. The original D Generation X logo shirt has not stopped production since that time. So those two factions are just amazing. But you know what? We should have a show about merchandise because this was Dark Side of the Ring. So let's continue on Dark Side of the Ring. So now going back to the reporter. Just to make just to say a little quick about him, like the guy was definitely alpha himself. Just trying to make sure that he gets a good story, in my opinion. And I don't feel sorry for him. At the end of the documentary, he said, "Oh, they were like, oh, do you have any final thoughts? Do you have anything that you wish to say to David Schultz?" And he basically was like, "Yeah, fuck you." You know what I mean? Like if you had, I had ringing in my ears. So, and the ringing in my ears went away once I got paid, and that was that. But at the same time, he also said that, like, not a week passes by when people don't say, "Oh yeah, you're the guy that got slapped." So, your career skyrocketed because of that, and in my opinion, that was very intentional. What do you guys
Yeah.
think?
I mean, a
Well,
lot of shit, a lot of pain or hurt go away once you get that check. So, whoa, wait a minute.
Yo,
Okay.
Willie, what are you doing, man? Like,
Oh no, no, no.
hello, the screen is over here. What are you staring at, bro?
Oh
Like,
no, I was looking at something on my other screen.
like damn, that butt is good, ain't it?
Hey,
Yeah,
don't do me like
I
that.
got you.
Don't do me
Your
like
man
that.
is like, yeah. So I was in the Navy, right? Yeah.
See, now I'm going back to the kitchen. Going back to the kitchen. God damn it. Going back to the kitchen.
I was
But
in the Navy and shit. You know what
I God damn it.
Yo, you got me dying over here. You got me rolling. Nah, man, but tell me what you think about John. What's his name? John Stockton. John
Stossel, I
Stockton.
think.
That's basketball. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I think it's John Stossel.
John Stossel. Yeah, yeah, that's his name. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Oh, I saw this earlier. Yes, you certainly did.
Yeah, like one of the clips they showed was him when he was talking about, I guess, cancer and cigarettes, which is a good thing to, like, if you want to do an expose on that, fine. Especially back then when, like, everybody when they mom probably smoked the cigarette. And yeah, that's like, okay, if you can prove that this kills people, yeah, sure. That's an automatic, that's an automatic win for you. So that made sense to me. I didn't
Yep.
like his reasoning behind going after wrestling. Like, he was just like, oh, it bothers me when people think things are real and they're not. And I'm like, but why does it bother you that much? Like, I'm gonna take this much time to get a story about something because somebody else believes something. Like, I don't like me. Somebody believing wrestling is real is not gonna mess up my life that bad that I have to let me go make an expose about it. And then he kept insisting. He kept saying, well, I had to have somebody tell me, I needed proof somebody saying this wasn't real. And I was like, well, why did you go that hard? And then he was
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay. And then he was like, when he said, oh, I had to now get the other person to say, but it is real. So when you said that, like, you was the intention was I gotta find somebody to say to kind of give me the opposing side of what I already view it that this is fake. You was like, okay, so you want it to be a problem. You back there with like a bunch of big guys who, like, again, and you got the guy like David who really believed that this is what it is. Like, this is this kayfabe. And then you seem surprised that somebody got aggressive. Like, again, at that time period, that there was not like drugs and partying. Like, y'all, this was the time back then. So I'm sure you was aware of this. This is what you did. Why was that the thing you would go so hard about getting an expose on? I didn't understand his analogy when he was just like, oh, it bothered me that people believed it was real. I don't like that. Did it really hurt your life that bad that you had to go that hard about like, oh, well, I got mad that they believed this was real and I didn't want people to be blinded by this. It's not real. And when he kept saying, oh, it's not really a sport. Like, bro, can you wrestle? And then, like I said, we all know everything's not real, but they still have to train and they still have to wrestle and they do get injured. they do, like, they are in pain when they do moves. It's not like it's just like easy peasy, like they take a cut with a camera and then they call action and then cut the clip and then that's it. Like, literally, why we know storylines are fake, why we know sometimes the wins are fake, and we know this, they still have to perform. They still have to have some kind of athletic ability to them or some kind of fitness to them. So when he was doing all of that, I was like, why is it like he was just so like, oh, well, I'm not gonna call it that. Like, bro, why is it that hard? Like, why is it that deep? That you, and even 20 years later, you got paid. You an author now? Because I had to check a little bit on him. You got a book. You wrote some books. Thank you, Shanties. You got books. You got a book deal. You had books written. You kept saying the most YouTube clip was you being slapped, and you talking about the thing you thinking that hard about David, still talking about F you. Like, bro, thank you. That's what I would have said. Like, thank you. Your slap got me paid. Thank you. Why are you sitting here this bad still? Like, I don't know. I just felt like I definitely felt like he was trying to. We know a lot of investigative journalists do want to get their career. It's like a solo person. Like, if I can get this one story that's going to be so good that I'll be set. That was definitely what he was going. And then Vince McMahon was the guy at the time. It was Vince McMahon. He was doing all these things. What did they call him? He was like Disneyland of wrestling. He was like the top, cream of the crop. So you knew going after Vince. And then you even suggested that you knew the only way you got back there because Vince allowed you. Then you seemed that surprised that somebody slapped you. You was really not saying I condone people being hit because I don't. But bro, really, like, you knew.
I'm gonna keep it all the way 100. Sometimes people deserve to get their ass slapped. Because guess what?
True.
I cook. So what a motherfucker ain't gonna do is come in my kitchen and tell me how to run my kitchen, or tell me the shit I'm doing in my kitchen wrong when you ain't in there seasoning, you ain't in there prepping, you ain't doing none of that. Vic, that's like somebody coming to you doing your real estate shit saying, oh, you ain't a real estate agent. You gonna slap the piss out of them.
Well, not even. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. That happens at least once a week. You know why? Because people, you see, in this business, people want to use me and not pay me. You feel me?
Oh yeah.
So they'll try to say negative things towards me, so that then I could release a little bit of information and get tied and things like that, and then they could go around and try to get it with the super or the landlord and shit like that. And like, sometimes you know what I'll do? They'll do that to me. I'll send them on a wild goose chase, give them the wrong address, give them all kinds of bullshit, and just be like, all right, go ahead, baby, do your thing. But
guess what?
To get back to this dude, though, see, now, here's one thing that I was thinking about. Because he was young, and it was 1982, 1983.
Hold on, because I forgot to say this. We also got to take into account that the times it was. So
that's what I was about to allude to. That's the time. That's what I was about to allude to. Because the shit is, it was like,
for being fake is like exposing that Area 51 got aliens in it at that time. You see what I'm saying?
But the thing about it is that, like, the big expose should have been on Ronald Reagan why he didn't do shit with AIDS. You know what I'm saying? It was 1982, 1983. AIDS had just came out. Everybody, AIDS was in everybody's heads. And I remember my uncle telling me that nobody was fucking. So, like, everybody was worried about AIDS at the time. And for John Stockton to get his name up, he definitely could have done that. So what I think is that, like, you know, he might have just been the news reporter that didn't necessarily get the opportunity to do those kind of things. So he had to find something that was going to resonate with people, and this was it. And it worked. It definitely worked. You know what I mean? It probably didn't work specifically the way that he wanted to, but as far as wrestling fans go, everybody knows who he is. He's that dude that got smacked.
Was this in 80 or 81?
Huh?
Was the slap happened in 80 or 81?
I think it was 81. Reagan got elected in 80 and 81, and AIDS started showing up around early 82.
And we was in the start of the crack epidemic.
Yep, exactly. And the crack epidemic, that's another one. I remember growing up and seeing little crack vials on the floor.
It happened in 84.
84?
The slap happened in 84.
So that was the year before the first WrestleMania.
Yep, right before WrestleMania. Right before WrestleMania. 1984. Wait, was that after Thriller? No, Thriller was 82.
It says December 28th, 1984.
Yeah.
So with that being said,
that was after Thriller. That was after Delirious. Yeah, AIDS was already out. He could have done a big thing on that. But
guess where he would have had to go in the urban community, and he wasn't doing that. He wasn't built for that.
Then at that time, yeah, that's true. He ain't had no hard white boys back then. Word up. I see all that. And now like these reporters now, they come to all of us.
Yeah. Like the hardest white boys during that time was Sylvester Stallone and motherfucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Word up. Damn, you know what? You know what though? Speaking about that, I'm down to watch them Lethal Weapon right now. Like Danny Glover, Sylvester Stallone. Like I'm down to do that. But anyway, back to
because you brought that up, your diplomatic immunity has just been revoked.
The what?
Your diplomatic immunity has just been revoked.
You funny, man.
I say I can't watch Lethal Weapon because like Danny Glover got put on the list a long time ago and he hasn't gotten off that list yet. So I'm just like, I can't watch it.
What are you talking about?
Like if a person acts well enough in a movie role that like makes me very upset, they'll be put on the list. So Danny Glover got put on the list when he was in The Color Purple. He was he made me so upset that I was just like, I don't care what movie role you do after this, you're gonna be in this list. So he's been on that list ever since for me.
I see. Yeah.
And like he's been in mad, like even like if the Saw 1, like when he died, I was like, that's what you get, because I was like, bro, that's what you get for The Color Purple.
Wait, you talking about the Oprah version of The Color Purple, right?
Oh, my life I had to fight.
He played Mr. so well that it's just like he will forever be on my list of people. Like no matter what movie you did well in, I just like if your character died, that's what you get. Like that's like literally how I feel about Danny Glover. Like so I can't.
You know I think that should have been Morgan Freeman for that role.
No, because then we would have took Morgan Freeman because we think
I need Morgan Freeman to do his like narrations. Life would not be great without Morgan Freeman narration. Like if you want the intellectual narration, you go with Morgan Freeman. If you want that MFer, you go for Samuel L. Jackson. Life would be bad enough too.
No, y'all need to watch Morgan Freeman's 70 movies.
I want to see that though. You know what though? Because I only know Morgan Freeman as an old man. You're right. I only know.
Morgan Freeman always looked older.
I'm gonna send you a clip, Vic, of one of the movies Morgan Freeman in when he plays a pimp.
Oh, I gotta see that. I gotta see that. He say Predator 2. Oh, word, he is in Predator 2. He
should have died. I'm sorry. I just wanna listen, guys. I really like. I don't. When I say like Christian Bale only got off the list, he made me so mad in Shaft of being racist. He redeemed himself. He redeemed himself playing Batman, because if he didn't play Batman, he would still be on the list. I swear everything. I was like, yo, every time I saw Christian Bale after that, I was just like, ooh, I was so glad you died in Shaft. Like every time I see him, I get so like, that's what you get. So when he played Batman, I was like, oh, okay, all right, Christian, I guess I can remove you off the list. Like he was on my list too, like because he played racist so well that I was like really thinking Christian Bale was really fucking racist. I really believed he was racist because I was like, you played it so well that I was like, ew, whatever movie you need to die. Like whatever movie you in, just like they need to kill your character off. Like it's fine. So like it's bad.
Psycho?
Like
Katrina, have you seen American Psycho with him in it?
Yes.
Guess what? The Chef movie was right after that.
I know. Like American Psycho was like okay, but then it was like I don't know. He was such an asshole that whole movie. He like irked me so bad because he was an entitled racist. He was like, "Oh, I got money. I could just make this go away with some money," and that bothered me so much that I was like, "Nah." I was so glad when Mama from Carmen San Diego, the chief of Carmen San Diego, that was my childhood right there. When she shot him, I was like, "Yes, thank you."
Oh,
Fuck the
wow.
court. We don't need court. Like, nah, let her handle it. She handled it. I was happy about that. So he redeemed himself when he played Batman. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I guess I can take you off the list, Christian, because you was on the list with Danny Glover. Okay? You don't want to be in that list, because I would never, like, it takes a lot for me to move. Danny has not gotten off that list yet. So I'm sorry.
You gotta
Yeah.
see him in Cheney. You got
Like, somebody was like, so if you meet Danny, what you gonna say? I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna be like, okay, you shouldn't have done that. Like, it's like how I feel if I meet Kate Winslet for Titanic. I'm like, sis, Jack should have been on that raft, and I'm still mad about that. Like, I will see her. I'm like, sis, explain. Like,
well, that's like
you
how
let
I feel
Jack
about
die. You let Jack die. Jack was worried about you, okay, and you got to live your little raggedy life, and Jack had to die in the middle of the ocean when nobody knew who he was. Like, I'm still mad about that. So she on the list too. Like, she on the list. Rose is on the list. I don't care. Okay, what movie
because she was like Jack, and she let my man float to the bottom.
She like every time I love that movie, and every time I will watch the movie knowing Jack's gonna die, I'm gonna be upset. Like, I don't know why I do it to myself. I would sit there and watch that 4-hour movie knowing by the end I'm gonna be pissed off that Rose let his ass go. Like, if she would have stayed her ass in the raft boat, okay, Jack could have gotten another boat. He could have been alive somewhere in America, living his life ice fishing in Wisconsin. But you know.
Fact.
Guess what her payback was? She was never ever able to find love after that.
I mean, she had some girls, she had some kids, but obviously it wasn't Jack. That's the person she thought about was Jack. So.
Was there a Titanic 2?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should have been.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, some people have told me that there was a part 2 to that movie. I'm like, what? Okay. So now, since it is.
This way.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
And I know that my heart will go on.
Here we go. Okay,
Jack,
Willie.
Come back.
Okay, Willie.
Sorry,
so now, to just wrap up with Dark Side of the Ring, in the very end, the reporter
Come on, Vic. We ain't talking about Hogan choking the same reporter out, making him bust his head.
Oh, word! I missed that part. Go ahead, speak on that. Go ahead.
Now, after the whole controversy with Schultz and all that, like 2 weeks later, Hogan and Mr. T go on this show. So Hogan put him in a front face lock. Real, just quick and easy. He passed the smooth out. Hogan was not punished at all. Now, I get it. That's Vince's star. We about to go to the first WrestleMania and all that. So I get it. But it just goes to show that it ain't even a complexion for the protection. But if you don't have, or you wasn't that star, Vince wasn't going to ride for you. So whatever settlement happened after that, it was hush-hush and all that. Hogan got to be the star he was going to be. That truly showed that being as though that David would not let Vince just put the blame on him and put it on paper, that it was fucked up on Vince's part. But yeah, that and then Hogan even said in the interview, but he was saying that it was fake, and I just put a simple move on him, and you see he passed out, and he actually busted his head when he hit the ground.
He really did, and they was all joking about it, and I like how Hogan got mad. He was just like, "Listen, man, you fucking, you say you talking shit about my business, and you try something out, and you see what happens to you." I'm sure that he didn't intentionally choke him out, but I like what Mr. T was saying in the background. Man, he'll be all right. He'll just lay down a little bit. He'll be all right. He's just like, he'll be okay. You'll be all right. I mean, dying. Yeah, you know what I mean? Later on, be like, I pity the fool. I love Mr. T, man. Shit, I miss that about that time. Mr. T with all his stuff. Shit, actually, you know what though? I'm not gonna lie. The promos that Mr. T cut in Rocky 3, amazing promos. Like, I wonder if the wrestling helped him with that. But like, yo, Rocky 3 was official.
Rocky 3 is the one with Hogan in it.
Yes, it is. Yeah. In the very beginning, it was the charity boxing wrestling match, and Hogan was
we got the blue tight Hogan.
With
We
the
got the Hogan before he became Hulkamania. He had the blue on with the cape.
Yeah, Thunderlips.
Rip them. We're gonna do a show on best wrestling movies.
The only thing I didn't like about Mr. T in Rocky 3 was I hated that he was like the angry black man because he was just mad angry, and I was just like, all right, why he got to be so angry? Like he was just like, I get he was supposed to be from Chicago and all, but I was like, why he got to be the angry black man from Chicago? Why is that? Like, why? He was so angry, and I'm like, yo, you just mad for what reason? Why are you this mad, bro? Like he was so mad.
That was during the 80s.
I hate that so much, though. It
No,
made me so
but Apollo Creed wasn't like that though.
Apollo Creed was like
a complete opposite.
He was the champ with money. Claude Lane was the challenger from the gutter.
Like I felt like Apollo was
the
Muhammad
champion.
Ali. That was like his version of Muhammad Ali. Like he was extra he could finesse. He talked a whole lot of, he talked, and then he never had to be in a match. He never had a boxing match that long. It was like Rocky was the only person that actually made him go any distance. He always got people knocked. He was like, even in the beginning when he was like, I'll drop him in 3. He was like, oh, this is a good piece of cake. He didn't think Rocky would do all that. So this is why, like, he was like Muhammad Ali, like,
Who, Apollo or Claude?
I see you.
Yeah.
I see. No, but what I'm saying is that like they casted him, like they casted Apollo Creed being more refined, dressing up well, and being well spoken, and Mr. T.
Also after the money, like
no, but
this is the money.
Y'all know Rocky and Apollo is based off Muhammad Ali, and I forgot the boxer name that Apollo fought. I mean that Muhammad Ali fought, but he took him to the distance, just like Rocky won. But it was I forgot his name. He's
Rocky Marciano.
No, it wasn't Rocky Marciano. You know Rocky Marciano way before.
Oh no, that's Rocky Marciano and Joe Frazier.
No. It was a white guy. I forgot his name. He either from Jersey or Philly. I forgot his name, but that's who the first Rocky franchise is based on. The white guy that jacked him, and he broke Muhammad Ali ribs and everything like Rocky did Apollo in the first one. I can't think
shit,
of his name.
Ain't that some shit? Well, okay, I didn't know that. Okay, look at that. I mean, because Muhammad Ali is like the Hulk Hogan of the boxing world. You know what I mean? Like there really is nobody else that has that kind of star power. And that goes to show you the power of mic skills. That really goes to show you the power of mic skills, because even in Godfather of Harlem, you know what I mean? That guy that plays Muhammad Ali, like you see Bumpy Johnson just throwing back and forth with Muhammad Ali. And I was just like, yo, if I was there at that time, man.
And that's actually true. That's actually true.
I don't deny it. I wouldn't be I would not deny it. Cassius Clay to be there in Harlem with Bumpy Johnson at that time, 1963. No, I would not deny it at all. I believe you. But since we already going off into tangents once again, because we should probably change the name from Unpopular Reviews to Unpopular Tangents. To just finish up with Dark Side of the Ring, because SmackDown has started, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd just like to say that I personally enjoyed this documentary. I saw at the very end that the reporter and the slapper, basically, they were, John was basically saying, fuck you. Forget you. You know what I mean? You slap me, my ears are ringing, and fuck you. And then the wrestler was just like, you know what? Kayfabe till I die. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. This is me. This is who I am. I'm the greatest wrestler in the world, and I don't care what you think about it. So like, just to piggyback on what Katrina says, yeah, it's 2020. Let it go, bro.
I mean, you got how you got the old football players or the old basketball players who come in on this day and age of the game and how they start and all that. I mean, they can't be mad at David Schultz for him holding true to the times he was in.
I say that about the basketball players too, though, because it's like, all right, I understand, but it's not about you anymore. Let it go. You're not playing now. I get it, because I've heard there's a few of them that I'm like, why are you still this mad about it? Like, I feel like it takes away from whatever you had that was great during your time. It looks like just all now you're bitter. And it's like I
too.
don't I'm telling and this is somebody I used to hold grudges for, like, man, I tell you, I can hold a grudge. I'm working on that as a person, but I can hold a grudge. I really can. And I would like think of every way, which way that why I'm holding this grudge. So I get that perspective, but it's also like nobody's like you're really this is like you're thinking this hard about it that you have to put like a public opinion about it, that you have to say something. You don't necessarily have to. Like, it's not bothering you that much that, oh, they played that they do this way. Now sometimes what I do like Jim Cornette, sometimes it's like I get why you cherish what you liked about wrestling back then, and I understand that. I understand that this is what made it great, and this is what you grew up and you were so immersed in it, and I understand that. But do you gotta have a negative period every time something new happens? You have to have something negative to say about it? Like, is it bothering you that much? Is it bothering your livelihood that much that you're this upset about it every time? That's how I always look at things like that. It's like, you shouldn't be that mad. Like, that's too much energy to be that upset about something that much years later. That's what it is. It's just like, okay, but even with the point, I was still saying F you, like, bro, you can let it go too. You got paid. Why are you bitching? You got one slap. He didn't beat you up and you had broken ribs and he blacked your eye. You got a slap. And if you slap hard enough, he's a 200-pound guy. He slapped you. You probably will have some ringing. And like, you have some ringing. That makes sense that you have some ringing, but you shouldn't still be like 2020, like, oh, F you. Like, you still that mad about it, bro? You got like 2 houses and you got a bunch of titles under your name now. Why are you still complaining?
You got a storage unit full of wrestling
like
shit.
I
Like, you
said,
got
say thank you. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
You got paid and call it a day. There's no need to still be talking about F you, because David's not thinking that hard. Like, he mentioned it, but it was more like because he was talking about how important kayfabe was. He wasn't sitting here like his life was ruined because he slept. Like, he went and did something with his life after that. He figured out what to do with the skill set he had. Let it go. John.
And mind you, like,
okay.
even I honestly, after this documentary, I'm not saying that this is gonna happen or I see it happening or something like that, but if they wanted to, they could easily take David Schultz to be somebody's manager in AEW. You know what I mean? They could easily just like they did, they Jake the Snake Roberts. They could easily come back, especially with like all this heat, and then make him. And mind you, the guy could still cut a promo.
You know who I would have him be the mouthpiece or a manager for in AEW? John Moxley.
Oh, facts. He could be a ill mouthpiece for John Moxley in AEW.
Or you have him do what Anderson was doing with Cody. Whew.
Yeah, does something like that. But so now pretty much the last thing, and this is something that I wanted to ask, because mainly one of the things about this entire show was that it's really surrounded all around kayfabe and the importance of kayfabe. But now, one of the reasons why I'm happy that kayfabe necessarily isn't around anymore is because now that we know how fake it is, it's evolved. So my question to you is this: do you guys think if we still had the kayfabe of the 80s in wrestling now, right? Do you think that the women would be able to get as far as they have now?
You want to start that, or you want me to respond first, Katrina?
I can start, I guess. So as I told before, I felt kayfabe died when the internet happened. Once the internet, kayfabe died, and that's not even just with wrestling, just with many things. If you have like TV shows and they post a little something, well, you kind of ruined it. Or if you're like a soap opera, you kind of ruined it. Or you're like even with reality TV, like, it's supposed to be reality TV, but we also know it's based off not necessarily reality. Like, let's put up some clips together and make it look way worse than it probably is. Let's get all the people who's full of drama and put them in a section and be like that. It's like, it's meant to, even with the internet, like, you can have somebody be friends one day and the next minute show you like, what the F is this? So I don't really feel like kayfabe is, I feel like because the world has evolved since the 80s, that the women would have gotten, it wouldn't still be bras and panties. No, I don't think it would still be that, because women in general, why there's still a lot of work to be done. We have evolved as far as what we're allowed to get into, or what we're not. And I don't want to say allowed, that's the wrong word, but what women are able to get into, what women are able to, like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. And whatever, I feel like we have evolved to a point where I don't think wrestling will still be stuck. I don't think it would have been smart to have wrestling still stuck if we were basing it off of kayfabe. But I feel like with technology, it's very hard to kind of keep everything fake. It's too hard now. And even with reality, we're supposed to be reality, and even why that's, I would say that's like kayfabe too. Like friends, like, oh, we're friends and we hate each other, but then you're like on a picture on Instagram, you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess like it's that type of thing. So I feel like we don't really have the way technology is. There's no way to keep up with kayfabe to an extent because it's too much access to things. People put too much of themselves online. People put too much of there to make it like you can't pull off kayfabe if everybody wants to use the internet to overshare. And there's not saying there's anything wrong with it because, you know, we all do it if we're talking and we might put tidbits of our lives when we, even when we do the show, we, oh, my kids or my job, and we put ourselves out there. So it's not a problem, but everybody overshares now. So I feel like even in this day and age, if kayfabe was still as hype as it was in the 90s and 80s, it's too much technology. People are too willing to communicate online for it to be like, oh my God, I still believe that this is real. It's too much.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. But I mean, but like, and then, you know, what basically what I was getting at was, would, you know, would the culture be as open? And I would guess I would have to say if the internet didn't, basically if the internet wasn't around, if we still lived with just paper, and you know what I mean, and like if we lived like that and then the culture didn't change. Because one of the reasons why, in my opinion, why we have such a pro girl culture right now is because of the things that happened in Egypt around like 6 or 7 years ago, where you saw where things like Facebook were being shared, and then women from all over the world were just noticing how they were restricted in many different ways. You have these American women that can do whatever the fuck they want, and then you have these women on the other side of the world that have to have mandatorily all of these restrictions. So like I really, and I appreciate it. You know, shit, if I had a daughter right now, you know what I mean? I would, like I was saying, I would have her watch Captain Marvel. Shout out to Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel is the pro girl agenda movie. But you know, the thing about it is, the other thing with that is just that, like, and I'm thinking back to the Attitude Era, right? With the girls, a lot of people were very protective, were very worried about them getting hurt. And like I feel like Trish Stratus was one of the first ones that changed that, because prior to that, like Fabulous Moolah was the only one that was taking real bumps. You know what I mean?
We can't forget about Medusa.
Oh yeah, Medusa. No, but the thing is, how many matches did Medusa really have, though?
Well, see, that's
like how often did we really see her? Did we really see her fighting?
I don't know, because like you said, Trish, but Lita definitely was taking on men before Trish got better. Trish was literally Trish was eye candy.
Lita was. I
was very glad she decided to go to Finley. It was like, let me train, because Lord, she was eye candy. She was pretty. Like if like you got implants, you're blonde, you're petite. Eye candy. That's an automatic. I mean, like, it's like I'm
no,
gonna flock to that.
The reason I say Trish Stratus is because like before the Trish,
in China too. Like China.
No, but the thing is that China. See, China, I put her in a whole nother boat, because the thing is that China trained with the boys. Exactly. China worked like a guy. You know what I mean? So the thing is that with her it was different. But when she was introduced, the only person you could pair her with was with Melina, and she dragged her like a rag doll. But she wasn't fighting anybody. You know what I mean? Unless it was a guy. And then when she won the women's championship, that was already years later. They put that's the only woman that still has an intercontinental championship run. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like, and she was just the ninth wonder of the world. True. You know what I mean? But like, what I'm trying to get at is that like from the evolution of the Sunnies and the Sables and the Marias and all of those girls that pretty much just got over for being pretty, to the Charlotte Flairs that we literally respect for her in-ring prowess. I really wonder if like if we would be in the position of respecting these women for the work that they do in the ring, or if we would just still be glorifying their beauty. Because nobody looks at Charlotte Flair because she's hot. Nobody. That's true. Nobody looks at Charlotte Flair because she's beautiful. Nobody does. That's true. So like,
I mean, I wouldn't know. To each its own. You know, do you? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like
I see what you mean, but you know what I'm saying is just that, like, you know what I mean? Like, look, when we mentioned Mandy Rose,
well, her ring ability has changed.
Like, no, I see what you mean, but like, when, like, for example, like when we mention Mandy Rose, it's obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nia Jax is something that, like, you know, you got to be into. You know what I mean? But it's not the quintessential. And like Naomi is something that like everybody's gonna be into because she's just so beautiful. You know what I mean? But Charlotte Flair is somebody that's just like, it's an acquired taste. Shout out to Andrade. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, past vanity, Charlotte Flair is the greatest in the woman in that roster. The greatest
if
competitor, female
if
competitor in that roster, and she will have my respect, because she literally is her father's son. But 8:35. So let me stop rambling. And do you guys have any final thoughts about
I do.
Dark Side of the Ring, about any of this stuff that
Go
we
ahead,
went
This
on?
is
Prince.
just
I
for
go
me
last.
first
I'm a,
episode that wasn't like really bad. Like,
Mm.
Dark Side of the Ring, sometimes the topics you were like, Jesus, like, you like, oh, it's so sad. You're just like, this is the first time the person talking was in a good space. And I mean good space, like he was able to get away from wrestling and do something with his life, and he wasn't sitting
That's
there like
right.
on drugs. And life is hard, and you hear talking about, oh, he's dead. So let's hear talk to his wife or his child or somebody who knew him years ago. It's like he was talking to himself. And while yes, he was still very much immense to kayfabe, he still had something outside of wrestling. So that was like a really good to see. And
That is
I appreciated that it was like usually with these episodes, either the person is dead or the person is so messed up that you're like,
hmm
what? Like what?
hmm
Oh, like damn, it was tough. It wasn't like it was really tough. Like it sucked what happened to him with Vince, but I'm very glad that it was like a upside to it. Like, well, I got to do
Exactly.
this. And that was like the first time I think I've seen that of all and I've seen season 1 too. And I was like, shit, like they're so bad sometimes that you're like, God, it's so like it's good, but then it's depressing. It makes me feel sad. Like this happened to this person. Like, oh my God, like
hmm
there's no closure for this family. Like this is what
hmm
happened. Like Vince is just like, fuck y'all. That's always what it is when you watch Dark Side of the Ring. It's like it's so depressing sometimes. Like this is really sad. So this was
like the
actually
Yeah,
very
man.
Marlins.
uplifting. Like I was so glad, even though he was still talking shit at the end, he was still like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm doing something with my life. I'm not sitting here depressed
exactly.
about the fact that this happened this amount of years ago. And like he was doing something and he was still very much like himself. And I appreciated that. That was like my favorite part of this. Like it was really uplifting in that
Yeah,
regards.
I see what you
To
mean. I
see
see what you mean.
to
Because I mean, comparing that to Dino Bravo, it's night and day. Yeah, and yeah, it really is night and day. The Dino Bravo show was kind of depressing, and this one was
the
way,
fact
way.
that you brought Dino Bravo up, I'm gonna tell everybody. It's a series on Netflix. I think it's called Bloodline or shit. I gotta think of the name, but it's actually about the Canadian mafia and stuff that was going on during the Dino Bravo shit they was
Oh,
talking about.
Willie always know about the gangster shit. I love it. All
So
right, all
with
right.
that,
Thank you, Willie.
once I find an actual title of it, I'm gonna send it to you so you can watch it. But
Bet.
the Crown family that they was talking about, Dino Bravo was attached to and all that, that's real
Mhm.
legit. That's real legit. So,
Nice.
like I said, this was one of the, I guess, best episodes that far as the wrestling that down and out, like Katrina said, he made a living outside once he got blackballed and everything. So it was a success story. What I love about Dark Side of the Ring, whether they talking about a WWE star, you could tell that WWE has no control over what they put out. So you get in depth, whether it's good or bad about
Yep,
Vince or the WWF, WWE, it
that's
comes
right.
out. So
That's
I
right.
really love that. And then I don't know, Vic, have you seen season 1?
Yes, I have, and we got to go back into that. But
We will.
when it comes to this, just to piggyback on what you're saying, I really like how they expose Vince. I
They've been
really like how they.
exposing Vince like this whole
No,
thing.
no, 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 no. But here's the thing: like when it comes
It's
to
like every
David Schultz,
episode, oh, Vince did this too. Well, damn, let's add to the list of
facts
shit Vince
though,
did.
like for real though, like they really like putting Vince on blast right now. Because when it comes to David Schultz and the slap, I had no idea that Vince had anything to do with that. I had absolutely no idea that Vince was even involved, that he sent them over, and this was prior to WrestleMania. Like, you know what I mean? I had no idea that that was all Vince McMahon's and his gangster shit. And then the whole lawsuit and all of that, like, it just, it more than anything, like, it kind of gives you an idea as to what young Vince was like, because you don't get too much of that. You know what I
Guess
mean?
what?
Already by the Attitude Era, he was already in his 50s, and the thing about it is that that's the time when he was just announcing. Because when he was an announcer, he was, announcer face at all times. So you didn't really know. I mean, a lot of people didn't know that Vince McMahon was the owner of WWE.
Until the shit with Brett happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like Bret Hart is the one. Like I had tested Bret Hart as the one to start the Attitude Era, because of that whole situation. But anyway, it's 8:39. and we're going off into another tangent. My final thoughts are that we're never too old to mark hard and mark proud. Oh, wait, we got to pay bills. So tomorrow is SmackDown, and that should be at noon.
I like that.
Huh?
I like that.
Oh yeah, you never seen this? I never showed you this.
I like that.
You never seen this
one?
Yeah. When SmackDown came out, the new SmackDown, I went and got this real quick. You know what I mean?
Guess what's gonna premiere Saturday with the Dream? I'm breaking out the authentic blue Universal title.
Oh, nice. Okay. I like that.
That's what we doing.
I like that. I'm gonna get on. If it gets here on time. Because I'm supposed to be receiving 2 more belts. You know how the mark does. I'm supposed to be receiving 2 more belts tomorrow. And I'm very excited because I thought I wouldn't be able to, but the WrestleMania 36 is coming. So I'm hyped. But anyway, let me shut up because we got to get out of here. So for myself, wait, let me shut up because y'all have to say your final thoughts.
Go ahead, Katrina, Queen B.
Oh well, yeah. Like I was saying, it was really nice to see an episode where it wasn't really sad because I felt like every episode, like even season 1, I watched a few episodes with somebody before, but then I was like, let me just kind of, binge watch. So I'm gonna watch it straight through, and you just be so depressed. Like, jeez. Like, this is your light. Like, anytime you ever hear any of the wrestlers who died really young, and then you read the backstory, you're like, God damn, this will happen to you. This will happen to you. Like, this is. Mm-hmm. I was wondering what happened to you. Like, when I found out a few years ago about Crash Holly, that hurt because not that I was a big fan of him, but he seemed like such a nice guy, and I was like, this is how you died depressed and you choked up. It was just. It's always so depressing sometimes when you hear about wrestler stories. It's very rarely. You're gonna get to how The Rock is movie star Rock and he living his life. And it's not much really bad stuff. It's so rare with the wrestlers. It feels like once you leave WWE or you leave wrestling, once that decline happened, it's that's it, and it's just so depressing. So it was just I was just very happy to God finally because the last couple episodes shit damn, it's depressing. You feel so sad about stuff. It was just nice to be he was just himself at the end. His gun. If I see him today, whatever. And it was even though I feel he was still way into kayfabe, I did like that he was definitely not in a bad space. Where he was just fuck you, Vince. I'm mad at the world and fuck it. And I'm still whole. He literally took this and was you know what, I'm gonna do something else. And he used the skills he had. And I was very happy to see that. That was really good to see because it seems some of these episodes sometimes shit. Lockdown. So depressing. So sad.
So Willie. Take us home.
Vic, I'm about to say, go ahead, Vic. You say what you're gonna say, and let me close out.
No, I already did. You are closing out.
Okay, well, hey, like I said, this was a wonderful episode. I love the whole Dark Side of the Ring series because, like I say, we give a real live, unbiased, and in depth to the business, whether it's favorable of the WWE or WWF or whether it's unfavorable. Like I said, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Man, make sure y'all checking in on not just the review shows, but all the wrestling review shows. I know y'all see a couple of cohorts or something that look familiar doing other review shows, but I want to let y'all know we often imitate it, but never duplicate it. We the originals over here of this wrestling review shit and this movie and just pure entertainment shit. When you get on the unpopular review or the UPR platforms, man, you getting the best shows out here when it comes talking wrestling. So like I said, you might see a couple people that look familiar from our brand. Guess what? They ain't us. We the originators of this shit. Like Dre say, man, we started this wrestling shit. And it's the motherfucking thanks we get. So like I say, if they tuning in, I don't give a fuck. See me when you see me, and it is what it is. Like I say, man, when y'all see those cohorts that was under the NPR umbrella, just know they fake. They ain't the real. Get with the real. If you don't see Katrina Storm, if you don't see Vic, the Mark, if you don't see David, what the fuck, someone saying, or if you don't see the executive asshole, Big Daddy Cool, or the bad guy, man, if you don't see none of them, man, they all fake. They imitators, not the originators. So make sure y'all tune in every Monday night at 11:05 for Raw Review On Thursday, you getting the AEW and the NXT review. On Saturday, you getting the SmackDown review. And I
I
forgot
love
to
how he says Saturday. I love how he says Saturday. I really do. I can't get over that shit. Go ahead.
and we doing Dark Side. We doing Dark Side every Thursday, right?
Fridays.
Every Friday. Every Friday,
Fridays.
we got
Fridays.
Dark
Fridays.
Side of the review, Dark Side of the Ring, popular review. Like I say, man, fuck with the originators, not the duplicators, man, and we out.
I love it. All right, everybody. Check us out on Patreon and check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com. Get our shirts, the unpopular review shirts. Now tomorrow we're going to be doing SmackDown, which is actually going on right now. But then after that, we will be reviewing. We will be bringing it back to Unpopular Review Entertainment, and we will be covering Iron Man 2, continuing the MCU, and that is a lot of fun. So join us. So for myself, for Katrina Storm, and for the Willatine Dream, you all have an amazing evening.